Alright, so today's game plan, we're going to finish input and output, and we'll talk about project 1. Okay, so project 1, you should have 2 weeks and a couple more days for the late assignment. And then once it's due, after the last late day, we'll talk about it in class. Okay? Alright. Input, output. Kind of a review of what we talked about last time. Input, output stream library, IO stream, right? This one has STD in, STD out, STD line, all in there. We went over cin, and that was about it, right? But when we were talking about cin, we went in detail of how the stream works, right? What it looks like in the memory, how does it go from terminal to the buffer, and so on. And we talked about the steps for cin. At first, we'll try to read from the terminal. The minute you press enter, it will transmit it into the buffer, which is the one that I keep drawing at the bottom of the slides. And finally, it will parse it at different types of the variable and then store it inside the variable you specify in your code. Meanwhile, space tags and new lines are all used as delimiters, where it will pause, it will wrap everything up together, store, and then continue. Okay? Alright, so before we go into see out, there's this new concept I want to introduce, it's end of the file. When you are trying to enter things in the terminal, right? Remember the last time we were just entering and press enter, entering and press enter. We always show you when we do not give enough, right? And then the terminal will wait and ask for more. What if I am done with the input while the computer is not aware of? So I'm writing, I'm typing and typing. I'm done. I don't want it to wait for me anymore. I just want to let my computer or let the system know that I'm done. No more inputs coming. I know you're expecting, but no more. Okay? So the way that you signal your program, your system, your computer that no more inputs are coming in the terminal is by the end of file marker. So this differ by systems. So you can see that for Mac, the way that you signal in the terminal that you're done is Control D, versus Windows is Control Z. Okay? So I'm going to show you using this example. We're going to go into detail example. But the way that you give the signal to your computer is in a brand new line. Okay? So imagine that you have a terminal. This is the terminal, right? And then every time it would be like input, enter something. So it would be like, okay, I'm going to enter 1, enter, and it would be like, okay, I need 1 more. You can enter 3, space, 5, tab, and then 7, enter, and it would be like, okay, I want more. No, I'm done, no more. You have to do it at a new line. Okay, so this is where you do Control D or Control Z. Okay, so it's D or Z. If you want to tell your computer, I'm done here, it's not going to work. Okay, so if you like, okay, 7 is the last number I'm going to give you, I'm done. No matter how hard or how many times you do Control D or Control Z, before you transmit, it's not going to recognize. It's thinking that you're inputting a Control D in the terminal. Okay, so it has to be at a brand new line where your computer is waiting for new input. This is when you press Control D or Control Z. So don't do something like 1 space Control D. Not gonna work. Has to be a brand new line that's waiting for your fresh input. Meaning, another way to say this, remember every time you press enter, it's going to transmit, right? Your Control D or your Control Z has to be at a new transmit. Brand new transmit. Okay? It cannot be in the middle of some transmit. It has to be a brand new transmit where you do Control D or Z. That's all there is, right? This is a brand new transmit. Nothing else is in that transmit. This is the only time you're telling your system, I'm done. No more input, and then it will not ask you anymore. It will not be like, okay, well, I want more. Nope, none given. Okay? With that, let's go into our example. So this example is to show you how do I have a program that continues to wait for my input until I tell it it's done. Okay, remember before, we always be like cin integer. So it will be done when you enter one integer, right? If you do cin a float, it will be done when you enter a float. Very specific on what I'm expecting. That way, we will not run into this problem where a computer just keep waiting. But sometimes you do want the computer to keep asking for input until the user say otherwise, right? Imagine that you're asking people to type in a paragraph. You don't know how many sentences they're going to type in. You don't know how many enters they're going to put in. They may type a paragraph, right? And when they're done, be like, actually, I'm going to press the enter and put my period over here. You never know what your user's going to do. In this way, you want your user to be the one signal your program that they're done. Okay? So here's how we're going to do it. Beginning of the program, I'm going to have 3 local variables. I have integer A, integer sum, integer count. Question, which one of these 3 lines is not recommended? The first one, right? Because what would A be? 7, 3, 6, 8, 9. Right? Like it's completely random. So I do not recommend you to start a number with no value. Will this cause my program to fail though?
No.
Not for this specific program, because the first time I do A is I am overwriting. No matter what value I set up there, the cin will put my value from the terminal into A. Right? So overwriting A. So for this program, I'm fine, but in general, we do not recommend it. All right, so I have 3 local variables, A, sum, and count. My instruction, right, input instruction, always important. What are we expecting? We're waiting for people to enter numbers that they want to sum it up. Do we know how many numbers they want to sum up? We do not. Okay? User can enter as many integers as they want to add them all up together. So we want to allow that. We don't want to give them enter 5 numbers or enter 7 numbers. We want to give user the freedom of enter as many numbers as they want, and we just add it together and return. Okay? So the way you do that is to use while loop. When you have cin, this keyword, the string, inside a while loop, it will, every time it go into a while loop and try to evaluate whether it's true and false, it will try to cin. Okay? So we look at this. The minute we got to line 15, the first time cin appears in your program, right? This got initiated. So now we have cin string, waiting, ready for instruction. So the first thing that we ask the cin string to do is insert into an integer A. Right? So we have cin ready, and we're going to ask cin to insert into A, meaning that your terminal is waiting. Right? Waiting for your input. So what I input inside my terminal is 3 space 5 space 2. Enter. So transmit. Right? The minute I press enter, transmit everything down into my stream at the bottom. So we have 3, empty, 5, empty, 2, new line. Done. Okay? So everything else is, there's nothing. So the transmit will transmit everything in. Now let's look how we run the while loop. Now we have things inside cin. So cin can continue, right? Line 15 can continue to run. The first thing that it will do is, you want an integer a, I will automatically parse an integer a. So the first thing that we have is 3, followed by a space. Space is the delimiter, right? It will pause, wrap it, which is just a number 3, insert. So this, we'll take that, put it into variable a. So far so good? All right, that complete the while condition. All right, remember before, we always have cin, an integer, right? We do cin, a, what else do we have? Sum, right? And then we will have cin, or we will have cin, a, sum. Something like that, right? Where we're very specific on, you do this, you do that, and then you do that, and then you do that, right? For a while loop, we only ask it for it to do 1. So it will do that, and then it will leave cin as is. We're not going to process cin anymore. We're running line 16 now. Nothing to do with cin. So cin only run cin, oops, sorry, it's making a shape. Cin going into a, which we have, 3. 3 is into a. We're done. Next line, moving on. So the next time, it's going to run 16. So the while condition evaluated to be true when you successfully have something inside cin string that can be placed into the variable a. That's how the while condition is evaluated. So while condition is true, you go into the while loop, right? That's how while works. True into next line. So now we do sum plus equals to a. All right? Did we talk about plus equal as an operator?
No.
Okay. So what's plus equal? Where's my marker? Oh. Plus equal is the same thing as equal plus. So what do we have? So we have sum plus equals to a, right? This is equivalent as sum equal to sum plus a. It's always adding to the same thing. So sum equals to sum plus a. If I have count plus equals to 2, that is equivalent as count equals to count plus 2. Okay? So that's plus equal. I use that a lot for fixed number like that, where I just add a number. But yeah, plus equal is a short term for the first thing equal to first thing plus the second thing. Yeah, yeah.
For the for that while loop, once we get into the cin, it's gonna open up a cin string, and then we put in the numbers.
Yep.
And goes down, and then again goes up to check the condition, right?
Yes, we'll talk about the second
When we
one.
go to that, again, it's not gonna open up the another.
I'm gonna show you, okay? So let's finish the sum. So sum right now, initialize it to be 0. Now should be what? 3. Correct. Okay? So now 3, and then we have count plus plus. Did we talk about plus plus? I'm trying to minimize my writing. So plus plus is equivalent to sum equal to sum plus 1. It's always 1. Count plus plus is equivalent as count equal to count plus 1. Just 1 down. Fixed number, just 1. It's an increment. Increase it by 1. Right? So plus plus. So count plus plus, increase count from 0 to what? Yes, question.
It's like the difference between like adding like the concept of supported array and like active array.
Yes. We can talk about that now, but we won't use that until pretty late in the course. All right. So think of CI as a print. Actually, I'm just going to use print because you're all more familiar with print, right? So if I have a int a equals, am I writing too small? Can you?
No, it's
Okay. Int a equals to 5. All right, to start with. So now, if I do print, I have no idea this. I assume that's how you print. Print a plus plus. Okay, I think it's called printf or something for C++. I only use CL. Okay, so say that it's something you're printing the value of a plus plus. This will give you, here's my terminal. This will give you 6, right? No, it will not. So what does the a plus plus mean? It means that I'm going to add 1 later. So what this will give me is actually 5. If I have print a again, that will give me 6. All right, so this means that I'm going to add 1, yes. I'll add 1 later. You can think of like that. So at this point, has it been added? Is a now 6? It is, but this, if you think of it as a function, returns 5. It returns the number before you add it. That's why the plus plus goes after. If I do plus plus a, okay, if I do plus plus a, it will give me 6. That's the only difference. Alright? This is called pre-increment. This is called post-increment. In the middle of the class, we will actually write detail and implement pre and post-increment. So it will make more sense, but since we have some blocks, so pre-increment, post-increment. But for now, consider them all the same. We will go into more detail later. All right, so just consider count plus plus, just add 1 for now. I'll only use post increment until we add. All right, any question before we go back to the while? Yes.
in the while loop is break still the
Yeah, so break will still break. Whatever loop you have, for loop will break. Yeah, the break will still work in while. Yeah. So we don't have a break, so it will continue, right? So we evaluate it once, where 3 is the variable a, and then we do sum, and then we do count. Now we go back and cin will try to insert value into a. The first thing that cin will do is that, do I have values? We enter 3 values the first round. So we do have enough to be put into A. So will it ask me or wait for me? No. Because that's not. It's like, oh, okay, I have number 5 in there. I'll continue. So the next time, the second time, cin A is being evaluated, it will be evaluated to be true. And it will just take 5, insert it into A. I know that you don't see any color, but I have this grayed out in my slides. This is grayed out because this was from the previous one. Right? So this is done. So the second time we go up there, it starts right here, and this is the first thing that evaluates. 5 is the first thing that evaluates. And then it gets to a delimiter, wrap, insert, that's 5. plus equals to sum, give us 8, right? So sum is now 8. Increase count is now 2. Come back again, try to do it again, there's still 2. Read 2, insert into variable A, do the sum, give us 10, do the count, give us 3. Try it again, right? It's in the while loop, it will evaluate until it returns false. Now, at this point, we have nothing more inside cin. Okay, on my slides, they're all grayed out. Right, there's nothing inside cin. What it's gonna do is wait for me in the terminal. So in my terminal, I have 3 space 5 space 2, right? And I press enter, and now it's waiting for me here. You blink. Right? Okay, I'm waiting. Give me more. If I give it more inside the terminal with 2, 3, and 4, we just put it at the end. Same cin, right? So the minute I press enter and transmit 2, 3, and 4, got merged into cin stream again. Meaning line 15 can be evaluated to be true again. Right? So it's waiting for me there. I gave 2 space 3 space 4, enter, got transmitted over here. It will try to run this line again. Insert 2 inside my variable A. Okay? We will continue to run insert 3, continue to run insert 4 without me. I didn't do anything, right? It has enough for it to continue to cin. Reach a new line, finish the loop, sum, count, now I have 19. It's gonna wait for me again. But I don't want to enter anything. As a user, as someone who put in 6 number for it to add, I'm done. What do I do? Right now my terminal have 2, 3, 4, right? It's waiting right here, right? This is a brand new transmit. What I need to do, Control D or Control V, depends on our system. So I just do that, D or Z. The minute I do that, this while loop will be evaluated to be false because I'm gonna put end of file marker, indicating no more, I'm done, fail. Or less of a fail, but return false. How about that, right? Because our program is still running. So I wouldn't call it fail, but it will return false, meaning that there's no more. I cannot do cin into A anymore. There's no more content. This will be false. Finish the while loop. Jump out, get to 21, print. Okay? There are 6 numbers entered. That's our count. And the result is 19. Any question? Yes?
So it doesn't matter how many characters we put in one line, so it can be 3, 5 to 1, for example, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. You can put 1 and enter. You can put another 1 and enter, because it treats new line or tab or space or tab or new line all as delimiter. It's all the same. It's just waiting, pausing there for me to be like, okay, what's next step? Are you gonna give me more? Are you done? Let me know what to do. So it all acts the same.
And of course we can enter like 55 as well.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Any other question? Make sure you're doing, yes.
So in C, 0 is considered false. Is that the same in this case or no?
Yeah, yeah.
So if you put in 0 for cin, it ends the same way as.
No, that's different. So you're saying if I put 0 here?
Yeah.
When you say 0 is evaluated as true and false, that's the whole statement.
Okay.
So if I have integer I equals to 0, then I have my while loop, I do something that is evaluating this whole thing as 0, that is considered false. Yes. However, I have my cin statement here. So I have cin something something a, right? This whole thing need to return false, aka 0, for it to actually fail. Okay, so it's different than evaluating A versus evaluating the whole statement. So this whole statement need to fail or need to not work or return false for it to skip the while loop and do other things. So putting a value 0 for A doesn't do that. It will just put in 0 for the value A and you add 0 to the sum, it just does nothing. That's all. Yes?
So if you try to enter a letter, will that result in failure, or will it just wait until you enter a number?
That's a good question. Let's try. So, actually, so I was trying to share my computer so I can demo it. But ever since I got this new computer, this monitor does not like it doesn't allow me to. But okay, so let's simulate this fake demo. So say that this is S. Okay, so you cin A and wait for me, and it's going to look at cin letter S. Okay, S is a string, right? Where A is an integer. Basically, when you have a non-integer type, it's saying that, oh, you're done with integer? Okay, I'm gonna look for, or it's expecting that you have cin like a string something here, which you don't. So yes, that will be like, okay, you don't have an integer anymore, I run into a string, therefore, I will break this and continue and looking for a cin like a string,
Alright.
which you don't necessarily have. So to answer your question, yes, it will break the while loop. Will that fail your program? No. It won't fail. Yes.
Like, S is a character, right? So
Sorry.
we can, like,
Oh, what was it?
like, so.
Sorry, like one line straight of me, 3 of the hand raised. So when I say yes,
Oh,
everyone tries to speak at the same time.
Fine, yeah, okay.
So you.
Right, okay, thank you. So, like, for that situation, S is like a character, right? So, again, like, this is like, as a number, like, I know you can do that.
No, it won't. Not for cin. I know you're talking about like, oh, but it has an ASCII number. No,
Oh,
it won't do that. So as long as you enter a character, like an actual string like S here, or like A, no comma, A or B, it will interpret it as a letter, as a character, which is a string type. It will not try to cast it for integer. Even Visual Studio won't do that. I don't think. As tolerant as Visual Studio. I
I
don't
think
think
that is feasible in C.
Oh, you see?
What he's suggesting, I think is feasible in C.
That you get, but that's not for string though. Maybe
Not
char.
only C++ because its
Yeah.
string has already been.
Yeah. String is a special library. Okay.
So, line 14 ends with and L, but line 21 ends with /n. So
What's the difference?
what,
We'll talk about it in the next slide.
okay.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
Oh, okay. Yes. That's my leading question for my next thing. But okay, so try this at home. Again, this is a full screenshot of my whole example, right? Type it in and try it. Enter string and see whether it works. And yeah, try different things. All right. Now let's look at cout. I've been asking you to treat cout as print, but how does it work though? So you know how we talked about cin, which is a string? Cout is also a string. It's from iostring, right? When you're doing cout, it is still a long memory that we were going to use this example to demonstrate how it works. But there is a difference that people already noticed. End line and new line character. They're different, right? when you print them out, they're exactly the same. You don't see any difference in here. When you print them, it's just a new line break. However, I'm going to show you in the memory it's different. N-line will not only give you a new line character inside the memory that I'm going to show, it also will do something called flushing the buffer. So let's see that. This example does not have N-line, so it will work as any character that we have been trying to see in, right? So when I have cout hello, the first thing that it will do is insert hello into cout. You see the arrow makes sense now? Right? So cout is putting that inside my cout stream. Okay, so now I have hello. And then the next line, which is line 6, when I insert more thing into cout, it will just append. Right? Which is append at the end of my cout stream. I have more, append again. Okay? So by this time, my cout stream is like this. Right? Hello world, new line, bye, new line. Yeah? Pretty straightforward. Now I'm done. I do return 0. When you do return 0, that reach the end of your program. Right? When they reach the end of your program, that is when the transmit happens. Transmit happens at line 9, where it will take everything from cout stream all together, put it into your terminal. Transmit into your terminal. When you see the output, you can see the new line already like as a line break, right? So it will automatically interpret that for you, which is pretty nice. So you have hello world, another line, by another line. All right, so for this example, transmit happens at line 9, right, when your program is done. However, okay, so yeah, at the end of your program, it transmitted, remember, at the end of your program, everything will be cleared out, right? So including the cout buffer. So it's all cleared out, free memory, done, everything's finished. But when I change this slightly, I'm only going to replace the second line, that new line, with N-line. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. So line 5, I'm going to have hello, right? Line 6, I will still have world appended at the end of here, and the new line character as well, right? So N-line will also give us this new line character. So far they're the same. But right after line 6, N-line will signal to your computer and be like, please flush right now. So at line 6, you have an output in your terminal. Okay? Flush means that transmit, clear. So it will transmit, it will clear. So your buffer is empty. Now we do line 7, is start from scratch. Your cout only has by and new line. Do we have an end line there to indicate flush? No. So it will not flush. It will wait till the end of your program, transmit, flush. See the difference between the two?
No.
Let me ask again. Do you see the difference between the two? So N-line not only give you a new line character into your stream, but it will also ask you to flush the stream at the same time, or right after. Okay? Will you see this when you run? No, you will not see. Will you see this when you debug? Yes, you will see that, right? Because it happens so fast, when you run it, they all show up at the same time. You're not going to notice the difference. But actually, under memory, when we look at how it's stored inside your computer memory, that's the difference. N-line will try to flush it. Now, why do I bother? So when you have something like that, don't bother, right? It's not going to help you much. It will give you a flush right before buy. Well, like you can tell the difference, your computer can tell the difference, it's fine. However, right now a lot of things are big data. You don't have a document with 2 lines, right? Imagine that you're doing a program that's reading people's essays from a class and grade them with ChatGPT, for example. Okay? That's the bad joke. Do not use ChatGPT. All right. Every time you read in one's paper, that's lines and lines of things. And the minute that you read that whole document in, it's all together stored in the memory. So for a document, it's still actually pretty small, but like, imagine a very big document. All right? After you finish that, do you continue to append the second paper at the end and increase your memory until your computer have a pop-up screen, out of memory, not going to do anything until you kill one of your applications? You don't want that, right? You may not have seen that, but trust me, as the speed of you writing program now, very soon you'll write a program that kill your own computer. Be like, oh, sorry, I should kill my own VS Code. Because you write a program that runs off your memory. Very common if you have what we call a memory leak. Okay? So flushing becomes super important. So you read something, you're done with it, flush it, clear it out. So that the next time you read something, you can reuse that same space. That's why we allow this flushing in the middle of a program. But for this one, it doesn't really matter. But you will see me still try to use endline. That's a habit, right? Like I like to have an endline, even though as short as that, I'd be like, oh, hello, what is the sentence? I'm done. I like to use endline. This is also a code readability thing, right? Indicating an end of like the input or document or something like that. But flushing, it's useful when you have big chunk of data. Yes?
If endline is much better in terms of just clearing out all that we have, why don't we just use endline in every situation?
You could, but you could see that it's taking more steps than necessary.
Oh,
Right? Do you
okay.
actually need to flush at the end of world?
No.
Yeah, you probably don't.
Okay.
Think of it in a while loop that runs 100,000 times. Then you're flushing 100,000 times, that may not be necessary. So it is, it does create extra steps. All right, so that's the difference. Oh, yes.
Does flushing, is that only within like text that pops up through cout, or can it be used in other places, like for example cin? Like can you get a variable and then use it and then flush?
So, good question. The reason that this only flush cout is because you are inserting underline into cout. So it will only flush cout. Even though you have some, say that you have cin up here and you have other things, it's not going to touch it. So it will flush only this because you can see that I'm inserting. So if you do cout insertion operator endline in between here, it's going to run the same thing.
Right.
But I tend to, normally people tend to put it at the end.
But
And
it's,
off the line. I'm going for line. Yes.
can it be, is there anything like that for like cin?
Yes, I will show you in the next slide. So there's something called flushing that we'll show you later. All right, so before we go there, another example I want to show you is just regular character printing that we've been showing, and also variable printing. This is the same as C, right? When you're printing a variable, it will first evaluate it. It will print the value of it. Yeah? Just to bring it up, I think most of you are aware of this. So first evaluate the hello. That will be a number 5. Put it in there, and line, flush, you have hello, enter, flush. Yeah? Flush. Alright. This is to show you that no matter how you break up the cout, it's all the same. Because you're inserting into the same stream, right? No matter I put a cout and there, it will then push over there. Or I put new line, and then the new line, and then end line, it's just gonna flush. So it will flush at line 7, move on to line 8, insert, append, and flush. Right? It's all the same. No matter where you do it, it's just gonna do it in order. That's all. So keep appending until you flush. Go flush. Append, 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 flush. It will flush. Yeah. So the line break in your code doesn't matter. Alright. Oh, so I guess we'll talk about flush later. But remember when we were talking about cin, we have the cin.get, where you can ignore the parsing, the automatic parsing of cin, and be like, don't bother, I'm gonna handle one letter at a time. Alright? So for me to show you where it's being used, I need to show you this compounded condition. Alright? So you see there's a lot of parentheses at line 7. We're going to detail how that's evaluated. But here, we're also going to introduce you cout.put. So we have cin.get that will parse one letter at a time, one character at a time. We also have cout.put that will print one letter at a time. Okay? Alright, let's look at this example. Line 6, pretty straightforward, enter a line of text. Now you've learned cout. I can just show you cout as well, right? So the minute you have that, with the end line, it's gonna flush it, right? It's gonna transmit, flush it, right? Because I have a line over there. So that's cout. Now let's look at line 7. Line 7 is the first time we have cin. Right? The first time you encounter cin in your program. Therefore, the minute you have that, it's going to create a cin string down here. Alright? And it's going to wait for me. In the terminal, wait for me to enter. I'm going to enter this as one line with an S, with a new line as my input. Okay, so that is what I put into the terminal. I press enter, it will transmit. So that's our cin string, right? Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Now let's focus specifically on this part. cin.get. So this is a compound statement. And then for C++, it not only interprets from left to right, it also interprets the inner parentheses first. So the inner parentheses is here. This is the outer, this is the inner, right? So this one, circle this together. So the first statement it's trying to do is C equals to cin.get parentheses. So that's that. Oh. The first thing that it's going to try to run is cin.get, right? So cin is pretty full. We have a long cin string. cin.get will get one letter only, which is my T. Right? The minute that we got T, it's going to try to assign it to C. Because we have C equals to cin.get, right? So we're going to take T, assign that value to C, so C now has T. And then it's going to try to compare C with new line. Alright, so what's my C? It's T. Compared to with new line, are they equal? They're not equal. So that statement is true. Any questions so far? Right? Yeah.
So basically, there are no breakpoints without us putting this not if statement,
The
but
parentheses?
this condition, yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So basically, it would go forever if we want. Okay.
Yeah. So while loop will evaluate all the way until the while condition is false.
Okay.
One question.
Yeah.
I don't know, in Python or C we used to put like, for example, until we put 999 for the while to break down. Like I never put like, if you want to exit, just put that. I don't know, it was like 5 or something. I don't know what that calls, but anyways, here, always like it's gonna compare that, and as long as, I mean, when it's gonna be equal to new line though, like that's,
Well, we got to new
oh,
line.
the back, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
gonna keep reading until you find a new line, basically. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What if, instead of putting like the if not equal to new line in the while statement condition, if you put like just the c equals cin.get, and then you, instead of inputting, or like you input the control z, like you press enter on.
That works too. That's right. Yeah. So it's the previous example, right, where C and stuff. Yeah, yeah. That works too. Yeah. All right. So that's what this is doing. It will keep getting one letter at a time. Compare it with new line. If it's not equal, continue into my if statement. So what's my if statement doing? It's checking whether C is S. When C is not equal to S, I wanted to put cout.put C, meaning I'm going to take C, compare with S. If it's true, that's my cout. It's going to put that letter into. Do you see what this while loop is doing? Every time it's going to get my next character. As long as I have not reached end of line, it will check and only put non-S character into my CI. Alright, so if I do I, it will put in there. If I got S, will it run the while loop? Yes. Will it run the if statement? No. Okay, so we'll skip. How about space? When you do cin.get or cout.put, you are having it ignore the delimiter, right? Meaning that it should not pause at the delimiter, it should treat the delimiter as a regular letter. So yes, your space will pass through the while loop, pass through the if statement, get inserted into cout string. So at the end, that's what you're gonna get, right? Until we find a new line, the while condition is done, right? Jump to line 11. Any question? Yeah.
So, why do we need to use dot put? What can we just write cout brackets C? What's the difference?
Spaces.
Yeah. So you're saying that can I just have C inserted into cout?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So then, if I do that, then you won't have this. So they will all stick together, right? Because space is the delimiter, and it's gonna ignore it, and it's gonna do this.
So,
Actually, I think,
Shouldn't all those letters have spaces?
yeah, it's the same actually for this one. So cout.put C, because we treated C as a char, which is the same as a string basically, but only takes one character, and space is considered a valid char.
so it will,
it is
doesn't matter
It
whether.
doesn't matter. You're right. Yes.
But then what is the purpose? Why do we need to use it in some cases? Why do we need to use c.put?
For example, when you have an integer that you want to interpret as char, or when you have, so you know how cin and cout, they are auto-interpret,
Right.
right? When you don't want that, basically.
Okay.
So cin.get is like that, cout.put is like that. You want to handle one character at a time. For this case scenario, you're right. Because we have a condition to compare C, we can do cout insertion, insertion operator, and then C. It's the same as cout.
So basically, cout.put it just prints one character, right?
It doesn't print. I mean, it will put it into, it will insert.
Yeah.
Yeah, it prints later. It prints here.
Oh,
It will insert into a buffer of the string, which is this one.
oh,
It
okay.
insert. Any other question? Yes.
If you put a string into cout.put c, or well, if c was a string, and you put that into cout.put, and then would that make the string separated by spaces? Kind of how like when you do cin.get with like a string, it puts the spaces between the letters.
So if we have C as a string,
Yeah.
do you still do cout.put or you do something different?
Yeah, still cout.put. Does it print
Okay.
like, or is that a different function where it prints with like spaces in between every letter?
It won't. It won't. So the only difference between string and char is that char does not have all the functionality on the operator. You cannot do plus between them. You cannot do equal between them. But they all host the same letter. So as long as you have only one letter, char and string will work the same when you are doing cin and cout. So that's why char. Yeah.
Which method is faster?
Compare
In regards
between.
to writing to files.
Say again?
In
Between
regards
what?
to finding, writing to files.
Going to files. We'll talk about files next.
I mean, I'm jumping ahead, yeah.
Oh, there's no speed comparison because when we're gonna talk about file next week, file is the same as a terminal. Through a buffer to a file, through a buffer to a terminal, same thing.
But I still don't understand. Is it for one character c.put or is it for cout.put? Is it for one character or one? It doesn't matter. We can insert a word into that.
You can insert
It just inserts everything that we get.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, insert. Alright, so end line, remember that it will flush it, and then put the done in, brand new, right? And another end line, it will flush it again. Is it necessary? Probably not. But just to show you that it will flush. Return 0, flush everything. That's the full example. Alright? Alright, flushing. So we got a question about this already. Can we just flush without end line? Yes, you can. There's many ways of flushing. End line, which we talked about, right? It will append a new line and then it will signal the flush. You could also just not put a new line and just say flush. That is a function under cout called cout.flush. That's fine too. Okay, so you don't have to use end line before you flush. You just do flush. There's also something that you can insert called std flush. Okay? If you have using namespace std, you don't need that. You can just do flush like what I have here in the screenshot. I just do flush. For you to flush cout, similar to the end line, you have to make sure you inserted it. Okay, so there's the insert. This is important. You have to do the insert, okay, into cout basically. You're inserting a flush into cout to signal it to flush. Read from the cin string. Cin share the buffer with cout. Cin will flush the content buffer before making any change to it. This is something that we're not going to use this semester. Okay, we always have different cin and cout as two different buffer, like the one we show. We have two lines, right? Cout up there, cin out there. We're not going to share it, but they are essentially just buffers, stream objects, right? One is called cin, one is called cout. They're technically the same, so yes, if you are really at saving space, if you only have 5 space and you need to print 5 number, cin 5 number, you don't have to reuse it. When it's being reused, same space, used for cin, and then now it's for cout, it will automatically flush everything in there and reuse it, which is pretty nice for C++. But we will not do that this semester. And one thing that you also have seen is when you're done with the program, return 0, go flush everything as well. Right? That's all the way that you can flush. For this class, we will only ask you to use the end line to flush, because we will not give you big enough data that it's going to crash your computer. Alright, similar to cin, let's look at CL manipulators. All of those are now in the new library iomanip. stands for input, output, manipulator. So make sure you have that at line 2 at the top. So that's library, iomanip. And the things that we're going to talk about, precision. All right, before we talk about precision, for a program to display a long number, it's going to use E plus to indicate 10 to the power of whatever number after E plus. So 1.2 E plus of 3 is equivalent to 1.2 times 10 to the power of 03, which is 3, right? Which is 1200. This is 1200. Oh my God, sorry, I'm shaking. This is 1200 with 2 precision, right? Because only have 1 point is a little bit off math, right? 2 precision for 1200, that's how you do it. For this, right, I'm gonna do 1.23, 10 to the power of 3. This is equal to that, 1230. So that's how you read a long number that it doesn't have enough precision to show. So when I'm printing, I didn't have a next slide. No idea. Okay. I'm going to zoom in. When I'm printing number 1, which is 1, 2, 3, 4.567, we have a number 2, 57.4111. I'm going to have a for loop. I'm going to show you what different precision means. I'm going to print from precision 2 all the way till 7. The way that you set precision is again inserted into cout. Okay, set precision, insert that into cout. I'm going to try to set precision to 2 first, and I'm going to print 1234.567. If I am only going to ask you to give 2 precision, which 2 will you do? You will do the largest 2, right? So the number is 1234.567. I only give you 2 numbers to represent this. You're not going to use 6, 7, right? You're going to use 1, 2. So what that will give you is 1200, and the way that your computer will print it is 1.2 10 to the 3. So that's precision. So you can see the next one, when I give it another precision, it will do 1, 2, 3, and then ignore the rest, right? So this is kind of equivalent to 1230. Then ignore the 4.567. If I ask it to print with 4 precision, it's going to be 1235. You see that it rounds up for you? So that is the set precision. It will also round up. If I keep going, then we're going into the decimal places, which is pretty standard, right? So when you have a float like 57, so the last precision, you just ignore the things after decimal points, right? So yeah, so you can see that 411, 411, those are pretty straightforward. Just the first couple is a little weird because when you have a number that is bigger than what you can use as precision, it will pick the largest 2 or 3, whatever number you ask it to set precision, and do E plus. Alright, so that's set precision. Now you notice that precision is setting the whole number. So no matter it's a floating, where it's 2.65 or it's 1234, it's always going to pick the largest. When you do precision, there's something to note. That each precision that you set by inserting into cout will only be there for all the buffers until another precision is set. So it will persist. The reason I'm telling that because some do not persist. Okay? So when you set a precision, it's just going to be there forever, right? If you set it to be 2, no matter what number you print in your program, it will always only use 2 precision to print, as long as you're printing using cout. Okay? So precision is set until you reset it or your program's done. Now that is useful, yeah. Very useful? Probably not, because the most common thing that people like to set precision is they only set precision on decimal portion of a float, right? Something like this. We're at 2.65253. I only want to print 2 decimal places. 234.652. Even though this is a bigger number than 2, I still wanted to only print 2 decimal places. You can use set precision, yes, but you need another keyword, fixed. This is also from STD, right? So make sure you have set precision with fixed. If you don't have fixed, it's just gonna do what our previous example, right? It will crop the whole number. If you have fixed, it will know to only crop your decimal places. What's nice about fixed is that when I have an integer, or when I have a float that does not have a 693, it will give us 693.00. So it will format all your print. Super common, you will see that. Alright, another thing that people like to do is width. This is different than what we were working with number. Width directly control how many cells, right, or how many spaces from the cin or cout that's being parsed. So I'm going to try to give you an example that do width for both cin and cout. So you can see both at the same time because width is a manipulator for input and output, right? iomanip. It works for both cin and cout. All right. This example, my width starts with 4. I have a sentence. I'm going to print. Ask it to enter sentence. This is when I set width of cin to be 5. So the maximum cin will take is 5 characters. Alright, let's start my while loop. I have cin, enter a sentence. That's my while loop, right? So you keep enter until I tell it otherwise. So I enter this really long. This is a test of width function period. Everything got transmitted into my cin stream down there, right? It's all good, so far so good. Okay, now here's our width. The width value right now is at line 6, so that's 4. 4 is here. The first thing that it's going to do, okay, here's the post increment comment. Width value is 4 when I do cout.width, width value plus plus, okay? This will be 4 for now. So the things that you're going to have, I mean, we also have a space here. So it'll be 4. If you have more, it's not going to read it. It's going to be 4. So we have THIS inserted into my sentence over here with the end line. So I'll flush it. Down here. Here's my output down here. This is like this. You see here, line 15, I'm going to do cin.width 5 again. Why? Because width does not persist. Width only works once. Okay? So I set my width 5 at line 11. The minute I finish this, it's gone. No more limitation. All gone. Therefore, I have to reset it. Because width compared to set precision, it's different. Set precision will persist. Width only works once. And then it's gone. So you need to repeatedly set width. So alright, my cin now is 5 again. I'm only going to read up to 5. But it's fine because I only have 2. So it's fine. I'll read both IS into my sentence. Right? I'm going to print it. At this point, my width will be 5. So my cout is at a 5. This is my cout. Because you ask cout to be 5 and to be 5 exactly. I only have IS. I only have 2 characters. So what it will do is it will pad it for you. It will fill in the 3 with 3 spaces. So what you got printed out at the bottom is IS with 3 leading spaces. Because you set you fix the width of the cout to be 5. So you will always respect how many characters you wanted to print, even though it doesn't have enough, it will append it for you. So you see my S, so put it over there. I'm gonna do it again. Now we have only one letter, okay? So it will append 5 spaces for me to make up the 6, right? So you see the width value was 6, and now it's 6 now. So the A have 5 leading spaces. Yeah? And as I increase this, you will see the sentence print out in a stair shape. Okay? Until the last parts. So we're done with width. Now we're at functions. Remember our cin. The maximum width of cin is 5. If I read function as it is, it go above 5. So it will not read functions. It will just read func with a T. It will stop right there. My sentence will just be func with T. F-U-N-C-T. That's it. Because you set cin to be 5, it will only read up to 5. And then it will print, and then it will read the rest. ION with the period, which is 4 letters, which is fine. See my control C? That's when I'm telling my while loop, I'm done, no more waiting, finish. Okay? Now you know how people make a Pikachu out of 1 and 0. They manipulate their output to make a shape. So you're ready to do that now. You can make whatever images you want because you know how to shape your input the way you want it. Alright? Okay. One more thing, like when we're looking at the appending, you see that it will append space at the front. That's by default. Can I change that? Yes, you can change it. There's another keyword called left and right. One's for left justified and right justified. By default, your text will align to the right justified, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when I set width to be 8, which is more than 5, it will automatically append spaces at the front. So your text is aligned to the right. You can change that. The way you change that is simply have left. This keyword left, which is from std again, insert it into cout. That's it. The minute you do that, you have a left line. Spaces will be appended at the end. So now you're really ready to make your whatever image you want with it. Alright? That's all for print. We review cin a bit, and we talk about cout, endline, cout.put. Manipulator is set precision. By the way, those two are the same. Remember last week we talked about 2 weeks before. We talked about readability, right? So those two functions are the same. One is from std called set precision. If that makes more sense to you, use that. Another way is just do cout.precision, like setting a property of cout. If that makes sense more to you, then you use that one. They're the same. Okay? Fixed is the most useful thing for set precision. If you don't have fixed, it's not going to do the decimal places. But with works for both cin and cout. With the same as set w. Okay, similar to set precision and precision, width and set width are the same, and then left and right justify from std. Any question? Yes. Oh, do they persist? That's a good question. Let's see. All right, now I'm going to show you the most important skill of software engineer, Google.
Oh,
All right.
so it's a ChatGPT.
No ChatGPT. No, you Google yourself. C++, std, what was your question? Left and right, right? Oh. All right. C++ reference is the official documentation page for it. Okay? Remember when we were showing you functions, I will show you like parentheses here, so all the parameters, don't care about the later one, do the first one, because the documentation will tell you required parameter and optional parameter. So I had some people ask me after the class, couple weeks ago, be like, hey, is this one that you want to talk about? Be like, no, that's optional, you don't really need it. All right. Good thing that have a lot of examples. They did not have that before. Oh, okay, here we can see. It does not persist, right? You can see that you're repeatedly doing that. You don't even need to read anymore, but yes, that's a good way that you can. So example is really helpful. Another way that we do a lot is, I don't know whether this will show up here, Stack Overflow. Here, another useful tool for you, okay, that to search for things that people want to. However, that is like ChatGPT. Okay? People will put answers in there that may not be correct. So don't give it 100% trust. You can have it a little bit more trust than ChatGPT, but not too much. Okay? But you can fully trust their official documentation page. All right, project 1. This should be available now. Yes, you should be able to see it now. It's open at 6 p.m. So you can already see this. We're gonna go over project 1. Oh, is there a question? Yeah.
From the lecture.
I know you're trying to turn your
Sorry
camera.
about that. From the lecture for slide 103, or for the example with the while loop, you said it was a compound conditional statement. I was just wondering which parts of that have to be true or false for it to evaluate as true?
The most outer.
Only the most outer one?
The
So if the
outer
inner
one.
one is true or false, does that not matter, I guess?
It will make the outer one false.
Okay.
So for someone asked, right, like where if I don't have anything in the cin, well, this
Oh,
return
okay.
false, right? Because you won't be able to do the comparison, which will be false. So yes, but if the inner one is true and the out one is false, it will still false.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but the inner one will sometimes lead to the outer statement to be false, most likely. All right. So before we go into the detail of a project, I want to show a couple things for my class. One is that I do like to give a lot of detail in here, and even a lot more inside the slides. I talked about this maybe 2 weeks ago, that it's optional for you to follow the slides. The slides give you detail of how you can implement it. If you're lost or if you're not sure how to approach it, that is your instruction. If you have full confidence, if you're very familiar with for the while loop to start with, you can just go ahead and do your own thing, okay? That is, the one in the slides is not required, right? It's optional. If you want to challenge yourself, don't even look at that and just do your own thing. But everything inside here is required, okay? People ask me, hey, you like to name your variable specific way. That's only because that is how my grader will try to parse your code, okay? Some people also ask me, do you run my code with C++ unit test? No, I use Python. Okay? So my graders are in Python, for those of you who are curious. All right, so at the end, I will provide you example input and output. If you enter the example input and you got exactly the example output, you will not be too far away from full credit. All right? You may lose some points if you don't have any documentation, like a little bit of point. But as long as you can compile, you can get the expected output, it's pretty good. Okay? So don't worry about. Oh, but please don't. This is all calculation, okay? So please don't see out A 132.4.00. I have tests that will give you different thing as input, okay? I don't really read your program as an essay. I will actually give you different input and try to have the output to see whether it match, okay? All right, submission, everything is through Canvas. And then the canvas will tell you what file type I'm expecting. So this one is a .c++ file. Just upload that. You do not need to upload input. Like I said, I'll give you different input to test your code on corner cases. If I'm gonna test corner cases, I will let you know in the description. If I didn't say don't go crazy, oh my god, she's gonna put in crazy things in my code. I will not. I will not. Okay. At the bottom of your assignment, every single assignment will share with you the detailed rubric. This is something that is helpful for you to get partial credit, right? So if you don't have enough time to finish the whole program, I will not give you 0 credit, right? It will still try to grade part of your code, and all my grading is based on my rubric. So if you finish, say, a portion of it, you will still be able to get those points, and you will know exactly how many points you're going to get before you submit, because you have full access to the rubrics and how many points each one is, and so on. Right? So you do see that I have code compiled successfully, a big portion of your point, and also the proper code documentation. How much documentation is enough? If your whole program only has 1 line, none. Okay. If your documentation is more than your code, a little bit too much. All right. But I expect you for each of the functionality, you will write something about it. For each of the block of your code, you write something about it. Does it have to be a paragraph? No, it can just be a short sentence describing what you're writing. That's good enough. Okay, so you have seen example from my screenshot of how much document I'm expecting. All right, so that's kind of structure thing. All right, let's look at my project 1. A lot of you know that I have been data scientist for 5 years now. So the things I do day to day is look at data and analyze it. The first 2 projects will try to be similar to that. The first thing that you're trying to write is when people are inserting their information and you store it and do some analysis on it. Here are some detailed information. The first thing that we're going to ask user to do is input, right? So before the input, we want to make sure they know what we are expecting. So print that out as an input instruction in your code to start with. Use cout, okay? By the way, all the projects use what we covered. There's so many ways to write programs, especially C++. Use what's covered in class 2. Once you once you print out the input instruction, you will start to read user information that include username, nationality, age, and account balance from user input separated by new lines. At the same time, I want you to count how many how many user information one has entered. So make sure you count how many lines. This is where you can use the plus plus. All right, here are some detail of the program. Again, everything documented inside the project assignment. Please follow. Okay. I asked you to make a struct. This is something that you have learned in C. The reason I'm asking you to make a struct is that later on we're going to make a class. So you can compare the difference between the 2. So when you make a struct, you're going to have a user account. That is the name of the struct. Please try to use it as is. If my grader couldn't pick it up, will you get 0 point? No, I probably will go in and try to read it. But sometimes as a human, I may make mistake. My grader, less so. Okay? I want you to have following attributes inside your struct. Username, nationality, age, account, balance. Then I'm going to ask you to read structs from the cin and store them into an array. This is a fixed array. So up to 10. Will I give you 11? No, I will not. Okay, I ask you to have max 10. I will only give you up to 10 to test your code. So don't worry about like, oh, she's going to give me 11. No. After you have them all stored and processed using cin, I want you to write code to kind of answer some questions. That means you're going to write some loops to do some calculation, right? What's the highest account balance among users? What's the sum of account balance of user? How many users come from Japan? This time I tell you, don't worry about capital J, lowercase j. I'm not going to trick you with that. I will only have exactly the string because all I want you to use is the string comparison that we did. Okay, so don't worry about corner cases for this one. So that's what I said here. Last corner is, do we have any user that's younger than 21? If there is, press yes, output yes, otherwise output no. And then cout. For you to see out, I want you to have Q&A at different lines. Each Q&A will have a new line in between with $sign and formatted output. The first, I want 2 decimal places. The second, I want 1. Okay? So we just learned about this. You should be able to do this now. Example input, example output. When you are testing your code, you can simply copy this whole thing into your terminal and right-click. Okay? In the terminal, the way you paste is either right-click, it will just paste it in, or right-click and click the paste. Control V will not work inside terminal. This is expected output. You see the decimal places. This is result of the fixed and set precision. Okay? All right, that's it. Don't copy from Check and now ChatGPT. Thank you. Okay, please don't copy, do it yourself. So for those of you who do not want more detail, you can read because I will talk about the slides. The slides will give you example code and detailed instruction on how to read it. If you do not want to expose yourself and say, I want to give it a try, I'm going to talk about the slides. Leave before and talk about it. Alright, for those of you who want to stay here, this one does show you example code and how to start and some more detailed information for the loop to help you get started. Okay. Project 1. So let's review struct first. Okay? Struct is as simple as a keyword struct with what you want to name that struct. We have specific saying that please use user account, so just use that. Right? So I already said to use user account, just use that. Here's my documentation. One line is all good enough. This is not exactly the solution, but it's very close. Okay, so the struct right now, I only give you username and age. You just need to add the rest. Okay? That will be your struct. Remember the semicolon. Very small, but if you don't have it, it's going to break. Alright. Once you have this struct ready, it needs to be above. Right? It needs to happen first because you will be using that in main. So this is a portion of your main. Whatever I have here, you feel free to use as part of your code. Okay? Standard rule for this class, if I have it as a screenshot on my project slides, if you just use that as it, I will not be like, you copied my code. No, I will not do that, okay? So you can just use that, you can add in, fill in the blank. Once you have that, start your main function, okay? Start your main. This is inside the main. There are multiple ways to cin into an array, and here's how I'm doing it. There we go. Here, make sure you have your main. And because we ask you to start an array of a struct, the way you do that is that you start with the name of the struct, which is user account. So that's the name of the struct. You give your array a name. This is the name of the array. So I call it accounts with S. This is the size. To try my best effort to not give you the exact solution, I give it a little number. But in your actual project solution, it's 10. Okay, so 10 in there, you're good to go. So that is the name of your array. So that's different, right? A lot of people are confused about, this is my array. No, no, no. That's the type of the struct of this array. So that is your array. Now, I'm going to print out my instruction and line. Like I said there's multiple ways. The way I like to do it is I have local variable to take the input and then insert it into my array. So I have local variable for username and age. If you want to follow my way, you just need 2 more, right? Count, remember we want to count for how many, so count, start with 0. Very important, if you don't have that, this is not going to work. Now remember the cin, we want people to continue to input until max 10 until they tell us otherwise. So if people only want to input 3, it's fine. They don't have to input all the way to 10. They can input 2, they can do 5. The way they tell us, programmer, that the user is done is through Control-C. So the way we take cin is through the while loop we just talked about, right? So here's how I use my local variable. I have my username, I have my age. So I just do cin, username, age. If you have more, just insert more, right? And once I have that, I'm gonna create my one single user. Okay? Remember, this is an array. This is one single user. Yeah? So I create one user, call user, of type user count. Then I can set their value. I can just do user dot username. Where did it go? Here. Username equals to this username. You can have them different variables. Those I don't enforce you to have exactly the same. If you want to have local username, local age, completely fine. That may be less ambiguous when I have username and username. But this is the same as that. This is the same as this. Okay, so when I do user dot username, that is this one. So I am inserting the value that I just got from here into here. Yeah? And I continue to do that for age, take the value that I just got from cin, insert here. Now, for this example, I'm done. For you, you just do it 2 more times, right? For nationality and then for account balance. Yes, account balance. When I'm done, I have a fully functional single user, right? This user has a username, has an age. For you, it will have a nationality, it has an account balance. So fully functional with information that's necessary. Then I just insert that into my array. So this is my array. This is the index. Start with 0, right? Start with 0. Make sure you increase your index. That is how you see it. Okay. With this, whenever people press Ctrl-C or Ctrl-V, then it will break, and it will have the correct number of input in your array. Any question? Good. If we test this out, when you have it in the input, for my example, I only enter 2, right? Because there's always going to be a new line after each line, so you don't need to worry about, oh, like what if I have more? Just make sure that if you have 4 here, you need to have 4 here. You need to have 4 here. Everything else should be the same. You may see the Control-D or Control-V in the terminal to signal that. All right? We good on input? Great. All right, so now let's look at the calculation required for project 1. We talked about asking input and then store it, which we just went over in that example. Now calculation. 4 questions. I recommend to split them into 4 loops. If you're comfortable, you can combine them into 1 loop. If you're actually comfortable, you can even put it in the while loop. Okay? But for my detailed instruction, I want to make it super clear. I'm going to separate them all. I'm not going to put them all together. So we're going to calculate 1 question at a time. First one, what is the highest balance? So now you have an array, right? Inside your array, you have account balance. So remember how you get get account balance? You do the dot, right? So all you need, where's my marker? When I'm at home, I'm trying to find phone all the time. When I'm in the class, I'm trying to find markers all the time. Alright, so once you're done with that, the way you get your account balance, for example, to calculation, is simply accounts ACCT. S. Right? Yes. So that's my array name. ACCTS. Zip. That's your first user, right? Dot. Say like age. That will give you the age of the first user. So when you have a loop for int I equals to 0, int I less than count, right? Count I plus, this is my for loop. Then instead of 0, you just have I. Right? Because I will start from 0, increase every time you run the loop. So you just, exactly, so you just simply I here, and then whatever you want to grab. For the first question, we're asking for highest balance, so that will be, well, I don't remember what I call it, something like account balance or something. So balance or account balance. Right? That is how you get it, how you get the balance from the array ACCTS. Alright? So you have a loop. Make sure that your local variable highest balance start with 0.0. Very important. Because a lot of the time in here, you will then try to, okay, here's a loop, right? You will try to compare user balance, every single user balance, and the I will increase, so every time it runs, it will compare every single user balance with your highest balance in the loop. Because the highest balance starts with 0, whenever this balance is greater than your highest balance, you override it. Does that make sense? So whenever your current user balance is bigger than your highest balance, you override it so that at the end of the loop, you have the highest balance. Does the logic make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's all in here. Second, balance sum. This is even simpler because you don't need to compare. Same for loop, same way to get balance. All you need to do right now is make sure you have a local variable balance sum that starts to be 0. Okay? Make sure it starts to be 0, and then you just have balance sum. So I say BS, balance sum. Unfortunate acronym. Equals to balance sum plus this. Okay? Right? Just add them up together. Once that is done, you have the balance sum. We good so far? So the third one, user from Japan. This is where you get instead of balance, you just get like nationality. Right? Right? You just grab that. Still the same loop for you to grab everything. This time you also want to compare, but nationality is a string. I have that in the project description. This is a string. For you to compare that, you just do equal to Japanese. Right? If. And then your color. Right? So when they're equal, there's a couple ways you can do it. I recommend you to have a count. Okay? So you see that I asked you to have an integer user from Japan or number of user from Japan. Not required, right? I highly recommend it. So that every time you have a nationality equals to Japan, to Japanese, then you increase that. Users from Japan plus as simple as that. Okay? So you need to worry about upper and lower case. So that I haven't done the top. User younger than 21. So here I provided a very similar solution to this one.
Balance.
Yes.
Similar to balance, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So the bottom one is that you have a count.
Yeah.
So the count to count how many users is below 21. If you have more than one, you print yes. If you have 0, print no. Pretty straightforward, right? A lot of people will try to do that and fail because the top solution is asking you to break out of the loop. You need to break out of the loop at the right time, okay? So a lot of the time in the up solution, people will break early or people break too late and they will end up having a wrong solution. So what's the top solution? The top one is that you give your below local variable a initial value. Meaning that if you don't change it, the answer will always be no. Okay? So initial variable, something here, some below equals to no. Something like that, right? Now, my question is whether we have one that is younger than 21, meaning that if you have at least one, the answer will be yes. Do I need more than one? No, you don't. So when you have an if statement of checking whether this age, right? Remember how to check? Something like the count, yes, I, dot age, right? And you can check, what is it? Below 21, right? If this is ever true, you set that to be yes. Yes, I don't know how to write yes. You have to break. If you don't break right now, the next time you do it, yes. Also, you cannot have an else. And people tend to have, oh, I have if, I have to have else. If you have else, it will also not be right. Okay? So the first time you find a user that's less than 21, make a yes, break. Close this.
So here we have to use break for this one.
Yeah, because it's a for loop. Yeah, because you have something else. Yeah, question?
If you enter, like if the for loop has like cin or cin inside of it or cout, and you do the control Z, does that like break the loop as well, or does it just continue the loop?
Because the while is the very beginning. It's like probably even up here, right? It will break the while loop because while condition is no longer true. So the whole while loop will be done because you have it as the condition of the while, right? Yeah, so the whole while loop is done because it's no longer true. So if you worry about this, do this. This will never work, right? If you be like, oh, I'm fine with that, try that. Be careful though, test your code, okay? Don't have an else, make sure you break at the right time, reason about your code and try to walk through it with some examples. Are we good, project 1? Ready to start? This is uploaded on Canvas. If you ever forgot, go ahead and download this and read this through. This is not recorded though. The recording that I posted is only for lecture. All right? Have fun.